Rhythm Changes is partnered with the Inlet Music Series here in my native Tri-Cities in Port Moody. This is a monthly concert series where I have the great pleasure of interviewing at least somebody from every band who plays the series each month. And that's indeed what we're going to do today, because in this month of January 2026, on January 31st, we have a concert that features band Django and LJ Mounteney. So please welcome to the show, LJ Mounteney.
Hi, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
It's great to speak with you. I know you collaborate a lot with Van Django, and you have on a recurring basis for many, many years. And I want to talk about that, but I want to start with something more recent, because as of the week that we're speaking and recording right now, you just did a show at the VIFF Center, which sounds really interesting to me. Now, this is not an Infidels VIFF thing. I mean, I have done some work for Infidels, and I know all about those ones, and they make it onto the gig list at Rhythm Changes a lot. But this is a non-Infidels VIFF production, of which there are also many VIFF live shows, and it was paired with a film screening of Inside Llewyn Davis by the Coen brothers. It was called Coffee House Folk. You played with Andy Hillhouse. Can you tell me about how that went?
Oh, it was excellent. It was Coffee House Folk, and the film is amazing. And because I've started to venture out and do a bit more solo stuff, but in order to have a little bit of comfort, I invited Andy onto my set because he's an incredible singer and guitarist. So what we did was I joined him for 2 of his songs and did harmonies, and then he joined me on my set, 3 songs, and he played guitar and sang with me on harmonies. And then we also had 2 other wonderful artists, Rodney DeCrew and Tim Redman. They were incredible.
Now, you also did last year when it's funny that I have the luxury of looking back through the gig list archive before I talk to somebody. You know, I lean on that heavily when I speak to people like yourself to try and keep track of what you're up to. You also did a VIFF show that had a theme of the blues legend Big Mama Thornton back in August.
I sure did. That was an amazing show. And for that show, well, first of all, that documentary is called I Can't Be Anyone But Me. That was the Canadian premiere showing of that film, and it's by an American filmmaker. And it was an incredible, her life was just amazing and heavy. And so what I did was I created a show around that show in terms of instead of just doing all Big Mama material, I included a lot of pioneers, women pioneers in the blues. And so that's actually the start of a new show that I'm working on. So that was really cool because I got to include people like Memphis Minnie and Ida Cox, along with Big Mama Thornton and several other wonderful female blues icons that were in the beginning of the blues, because a lot of people don't know the blues were started by women. And a lot of people don't know that. So that was a real treasure and an honor for me to not only be paired with that amazing film, but to sort of have the have a goal of, or the reason to create that and show off some of these singers that some people don't know about.
Who were some of the people in your band at that show?
Oh, that was a great band. I had Jerry Cook on sax as my guest artist. And then I had Tim Porter, who I work with regularly on guitar, Linda Kidder on bass and vocals, who's just amazing, and Alan Dion on drums. And Alan and I actually also work in the Get Back Unplugged project, which is our Beatles project. And in that project, Alan plays accordion, and in my blues project, he plays drums. So I'm very blessed with who I get to work with.
I was going to ask you about that too, because last year you did this at the Rogue, Get Back Unplugged, right? And you played, there's members of Van Django involved in that too. Right. And Andy was involved in that too, right?
Andy's definitely in that. Yeah, that was a show that was, okay, so there's the Peter Jackson documentary of the same name, right? Get Back. Incredible documentary. It's the one that's like 9 hours long or something. I forget, there's 3 parts. And, so the director of the Rogue Folk Club, Steve Edge, asked Cameron Wilson, those 2 frequently collaborate on various shows, to do a one-off show around that documentary. So the idea behind this show is a reimagining of late period Beatles music. And Cam has a trio with Andy and Brent Gubbels. Brent's in Van Django, Andy is not. But they added Alan, myself, and another artist named David Gibbons, an Englishman Canadian, to round it out. So we're a 6-piece band. We all sing, except for Brent. We're trying to get Brent to sing, but he doesn't sing.
We have to.
Yeah, we have to get Brent to sing. But five singers, 6 instruments, all individual artists come together, and we reimagine and recreate the Beatles music. So we're not a tribute band in the sense of a tribute. I love it because Cam and Andy are incredible at arrangements and coming up with these amazing arrangements. So that's kind of, the band collaborates for the arrangements, but a lot of the ideas come from those two. And they're so, all of those fellas are so knowledgeable about the Beatles. I've learned a ton being on that project. Like I knew the Beatles were great, like, of course, but I've learned a lot of their more obscure songs and their songwriting process. So it's been really good for me as an individual artist to go deeper into a band like that's music.
Did you watch the documentary?
I did a while ago and I loved it. Some people found it like, it's a long documentary, but if you're a musician and you like creating, you're going to love to see how the peaks and valleys of what they go through and the different personalities and what they contribute to that creative process with that particular band. Very, very, very interesting. And they just created such incredible songs. I mean, it's hard to compare them to anybody, really. They're in their own world, in my opinion.
I still haven't watched it.
Oh, really? I would recommend it. It's you need to put some time aside.
Yeah, I want to.
Maybe on a nice rainy weekend when you want to binge something. I found it fascinating. I know some people it was too much for them, but because I like music so much, to see a glimpse into such a big glimpse into how they created. And I think because at that point they were quite far on into their careers, obviously. So there was a lot of stuff going on outside of the music too. And which speaks to this current situation of where it's very difficult to be in a band these days and have that kind of experience that you could have back then of where you're immersed with each other. Like you're really immersed day in and day out. And that immersion, like another band would be Fleetwood Mac, I would say, where you're so always together and always creating. There's tensions in the band, there's relationships going on, and all of that contributes to the creation of the music. And I don't feel like you have that like that anymore these days. We're all individually on our own trying to create sometimes. So it's an interesting shift. So when you see how it worked for them, it makes you kind of long a little bit for that kind of it was just like this incredible moment in time with all the right pieces coming together with these 4 incredible artists put together, you know?
Yeah, I definitely still want to watch that. A while before we started getting on the Beatles, you mentioned the name of Memphis Minnie, and that reminded me of when I wrote about your album called Mama Danced at Rhythm Changes, which I revisited before we hopped on here. And do you not open that album with a Memphis Minnie song?
Yes, that is a Memphis Minnie song. I have to think about that for a second. Yeah, now the title on the album is called Dirty Rat, and there's a little bit of a story behind this because the version that Memphis Minnie did was called Black Rat Swing. So it has a different title, but it's the same song. And like songs that are 100 years old, it's gone through its changes over the years and tweaks. So Memphis Minnie recorded that song in 1920, I believe. And I recorded it literally just over 100 years later, which blows my mind. So wow. Isn't that neat? So through that process, what happened was eventually a gentleman by the name of Big Joe Duskin, who's a big fellow and played piano he's from the States and sang. He was a friend of Jack Lavin, who's the producer of my album. And back a while ago, Jack was responsible. He was the booking person and the person who ran the Amazing Blues Jam at the Yale for many, many years. And he became friends with Big Joe Duskin, and Black Rat Swing was one of the songs that Big Joe did. And I think when he did it, it was also called Dirty Rat. And he had this cool piano intro lick. So he took I think he got something from the Memphis Minnie version, translated it into his own sort of style thing, like sort of statement. And then, so we went from guitar with Memphis Minnie to the piano version of Big Joe Duskin that was channeling through Jack Lavin. And then Jack invited Brandon Isaac on to play guitar. Brandon Isaac, who's a wonderful Canadian award-winning blues musician. And he went back, and then so we went back to the guitar doing the intro riff. So it's had this kind of journey from Memphis Minnie through other blues musicians over here to Canada, like kind of, and being a female, it's very cool. I wish I could play the guitar even remotely as well as Memphis Minnie did. She was a big star. It's hard for us to imagine how big she was. And then eventually women fell out of favor in the blues scene, and men and guitars kind of took it over. So what kind of happened?
That's so cool to hear about how you have threaded the connection to the tradition. Mm-hmm.
It is, and that's actually that song is, I think it's a great track. I think Jack did an amazing job on the production of the album, and that's one of my favorite songs to play live because the lyrics are so great. The lyrics from those days are just so great, and actually a lot of the women back then too were very racy in their lyrics. It was a female empowerment movement for them to own their sexual power and sort of dominate a bit, and that was like the beginning of that. And it's cool to be connected to that. I just feel it's a great song on its own, but just also the history of it is really, really marvelous.
Yeah, and you have a great collection of musicians on that album. Like you already mentioned, Jerry Cook, he plays saxophones on that album. He plays a lot of Barry sax.
He does.
And you have Gita Das, so that's like a horn section. Yeah. You have John Roper. Yeah, you've got great musicians on Mama Dance. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Also, it's not known as well, but I was able to get Dee Daniels in and Crystal Dos Santos to do some backing vocals, and their voices are just incredible. So that was a nice icing on the cake. And Deborah Peters, who now lives in the States, but she's an Alberta accordion player, singer, songwriter. She's amazing. She's on accordion there. Lillowette Fox, who co-wrote Mama Dance with me, is doing backups with me on that tune. And then Nick Piver is doing percussion on some songs. So, and then the drummer is not as well known in the Vancouver circle. He's from Alberta originally. His name is Ross Hall. And Jan Randall, who's also from Alberta, actually from the States originally, but Jan's an amazing person. He's worked with Second City Television, musical directing. He's done all kinds of things. So he's on the keyboards there. So Jack kind of assembled a bunch of musicians from Victoria, but we also grabbed people from Vancouver. And when Nick came in to do the session, we were doing the horn session with Jerry Cook, and that went so fast. Jerry was so amazing. It went so fast with him and Gita, and I had the studio time, and I called Nick, do you want to come play some percussion right now? And he didn't want to come because we just played a gig in the Zappa band. And then he was like, we had to entice him with food. And then he came and he was awesome. He was so good. He loved it, but it was funny. It was one of those kind of fun studio stories that it just went so well because Jerry did all the horn arrangements and he was so good at it. So
can I tell you my one or two favorite things for tracks musically from that album?
Oh yes.
So Take Some Care of Me, I just really like that track and that song. I think that's probably my favorite track.
Really?
But then I would also say to close the album, the three, you got Neighbor Neighbor, Two is a Couple, Basement Suite Blues, very topical 3-hit combo of songs to end the album. I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, Basement Suite Blues was written by our very own Tom Arnson, who I'm sure you know. And Linda Kidder wrote Take Some Care of Me, and Linda is the bassist in my blues band. Yeah. So, and we are co-writing, actually. We've already written 2 tunes. And that, there's a lot of, and Vancouver is such a small community that once we get to find the people that we like, we sort of mix and match them. And that's why we end up in these projects where there's some of us we're all connected kind of, So,
well, you already mentioned the Zappa band. That's another mixing and matching thing that you do. That's Zappostrophe, right? You play at the Fox or at Tyrant, or
we do. Well, I don't know if we haven't played at the Tyrant, but we just played at the Rickshaw, and that was great. Oh
yes,
we got to play with Make the Water Turn Black is a band, and oh my goodness, my brain is escaping me right now.
You did this 3-band Zappa show. That's the band that's Tony Wilson's.
Yes, they were so good, and all 3 very different takes on Zappa. And that was a very, very fun collaboration. And now in May, we're doing one with the Pink Floyd band in May at the Rio Theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that just got booked. That's just happening. And we're back at Frankie's on February the 6th. And yes, we play the Fox frequently. That's sort of our home base because it's a big band. It's hard to find big enough. We kind of cram in at Frankie's pretty hard, but it's great fun. Yeah. That's a great band. I had Brent Gubbels is in that band, so there's that connection for me. Jason Overy, who I worked with years ago in the 15th Field Regiment band, and other projects. And then I'm just trying to think of who else is in that band. I think Brent's the main connection for me there, but I'm enjoying. That's such a great band. Another incredible group of players.
So let's rewind a couple weeks now. Let's zero in on this holiday season that just ended, because you and Django, when we talk about this collaboration, not only are you going to play an Inlet series here, but you do the Cool Yule show, yes, which I think I saw you've done for 13 years, but you said you've been involved for 12 of those 13 years. I saw your newsletter.
I wasn't in on the first one, but I was in on the second one, the second year, and then I kind of just kept going from there. And we've persevered through the loss of a friend of ours, Keith Bennett, who passed away in 2019, which was very, very saddening because he was such an amazing person and player. So he would play harmonica lines with Cameron Wilson's violin lines, and that's very magical, that combination. But he passed away, and then our guitar player Budge Schachte, who lives on the Sunshine Coast, decided to step back. So then we added Andy Hillhouse. So it's had a few morphings, and also the pandemic kind of was challenged because the first couple of years we had to stream it. We weren't sure what was going to happen, and it was so nice when we got back in person and could be back in the Rogue, which is our home base for that show. Like we've toured the southern eastern or southwestern BC and the island, but generally we're always at the Rogue because that's their annual Christmas party. This year we were totally sold out. It was so cool.
Yeah, so I imagine around that season, when it's firing on all cylinders, you go play whichever theater in all of the cities on Vancouver Island and in this area. We do, but the last few years since the pandemic, it's been a bit. We're working on getting back into more of booking a few shows every year. Last year we played Nanaimo, the Port Theater, and that was great. So we've been at the Evergreen Theater a couple times. We've been trying to think of where else we've been. We played Trail. We played the Blue Frog. We played it's escaping me at the moment. And then Sydney, Mary Winspear, Sydney. So it's a great show. It's very family friendly, and it's very eclectic. Because we did start out, it was very heavy on the gypsy jazz to start with, but then with the addition of Andy and the changes, it's kind of morphed a bit. And there's some Celtic, like we did some we do the Pogues, we do the Kinks. And then stuff like I do a Diane Reeves take on Little Drummer Boy. So there's a jazz element, and some bluesy stuff. So it's kind of got a lot of different flavors to it for a Christmas show. Wow, yeah. What else did you get up to beyond Cool Yule during the holiday season?
Well, actually, I did another VIFF show, which was a non-Christmas thing on December the 7th. Oh. And that was our Get Back show, and it was paired with A Hard Day's Night. Oh, what a great film. I'd never seen it. I can see why it's so popular, because I think I don't know if it won an Oscar or if it was nominated, but it was an excellent film. So we did an hour show there at VIFF, and then I also did some private parties. I did a private party for the West Van Yacht Club, and then I kind of freelance as a caroler when I have the time. So I did some. We played out in this wonderful film lot in Langley called Martini Town, and they have the whole film lot decorated like a Hallmark movie, like a Christmas Hallmark movie, of which I've been on Hallmark movies. So it's kind of. It's kind of interesting because I was sort of wearing both hats in that case, like, the film and the music hat. But we dress up and we do 3-part harmony. And so that's a really fun. It's really cool, actually. A really good connection with people just singing a cappella to them. So I didn't have a New Year's gig because I don't do New Year's last few years, but then like you said, I just had the VIFF show yesterday. So, and this month is starting off with a bang. So yeah.
So when it comes to the non-Cool Yule collaboration you're doing with Van Django, what is the repertoire going to be like at the show?
Well, we do have some surprises in store, but we do have, I have a couple of great versions of, well, one of the songs we want to do is Undecided. I don't know if you're familiar with that tune or not.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm trying to remember the name of the artist. It's, so we do Undecided, and what else are we going to do? We're still locking things down a little bit, but we do stuff like probably do No Gal Made Has Got a Shade on Sweet Georgia Brown, you know, the good old swing. And then there's a beautiful version of La Vie en Rose by Cécile McLaurin-Salvant. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah, not with that version, but with her, yeah.
Oh, she does a beautiful string arrangement of that tune. That's kind of like a bossa, and it's beautiful. La Vie en Rose. And I'm trying to think of what else, but sort of blanking on me right now. But we're still, like I said, we're still choosing our tunes. I had a couple that I brought forward that we've done in the past. So we've done stuff before where we've been like at Maple Ridge Act Theater and things like that. And it's such a treat to play with them because it'll be the full complement of Van Django. That includes Budge Schachte coming from Sunshine Coast. And they're all just so incredible musicians together. You know, they've been playing so long together and I know Cam has an idea, and I don't want to give it away, but Cam has a fun idea for what they like to do, what they're really good at, Van Django, is mixing up the genres and coming up with really clever arrangements. So we have a couple of those on the docket, and so I'll be guesting on a few of the tunes, and then they'll be doing their regular, and part of the appeal with Van Django too is they're very funny. So it's not just music that you're getting these amazing personalities into the mix. So it's fun to throw the vocals in there because normally they're without vocals.
Yeah. When you put on a show, you have to be an entertainer. Yeah, you and them, you all understand this very well.
Well, that's kind of the nice thing about having worked together for so many years now, is that we're familiar with each other, comfortable with each other, and they're quick studies. They're just so fast they're so good at what they do that, sometimes one of them will do something that just sort of dazzles me in rehearsal or at the show. And I think, wow, this is such a good life. This is such a good job to be the privilege of being there. That's how I feel about it.
I also like the integration of all the traditions that you guys are bringing, that you kind of understand them all. Like, you have such a strong rooting in the blues tradition, but you also know the jazz tradition, and so do they. And they're also more specifically in like the Hot Club of France, Django jazz thing, of course, given the names, but they understand things about jazz and folk music as well. But that doesn't matter to you. You've like integrated it into your own thing. You've both kind of done your own versions of this. That's
right. Yeah, I think that's what's fun about it for me, is that we are not in a narrow, that's never worked for me, and not maybe even intentionally. That's just how it's rolled out. And I'm not in a narrow band of things. Even in the blues, I'm not in a narrow band of blues, because I just have too much interest in too many styles, and I get bored easy. And I like the challenge. I think I'm very driven by the challenge of, can I make this happen? And also the analyzation of the song and listening to it and trying to figure out a way how to integrate these different genres together and make it successful and it's an interesting thing for your brain to do, if you like that kind of challenge. And then to hear the ideas come out and hear them being executed so well by these guys it's so joyous. I think there's always an element of, there's definitely an element of virtuosity to that group, that if anyone's familiar with them would know that. But if you're not familiar with them, that's what you can expect, is to just have some moments where you just be like, wow, what did I just hear there? So for me coming in, I feel like I'm just sort of the icing on the cake. It's a pretty good cake to start to start
pretty
out
good
with.
Deal.
It's a pretty good deal. Yeah, it's so great to work with Darlene and Bill because they're so deeply involved in community, and they're musicians. They're fantastic musicians, and they're going out of their way to the trouble of putting on a series for everybody else. I mean, it's incredible because they love it, obviously, but it's a lot of work, you know. And I think the community really appreciates people who do this, who are taking the time to research and bring out the best of what Vancouver has to offer. You know, I know that they had a sold out Christmas show, which I wish I could have seen. I think I was playing the same night, and which is always the shame about working, because you don't get to see who you want to see.
I think it was the same night as the Cool Yule, yeah.
It was either the same night or it was I was working. I can't remember which, but I saw it was Don Pemberton and Marcus Mosley, two of my favorites, you know. And I feel like since the pandemic, we're just so lucky to have some in-person shows again, that I hope that people are taking advantage of it and appreciating it and enjoying it, because it was really weird to not have that. So to be back to it is a good feeling, you know. And I personally haven't played at the Inlet Theatre, but I'm looking forward to it. I've seen many of my colleagues have, and I'm excited to be there for the first time.
Yeah, it's a great space. It's not too big.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I played there's a beautiful little club that is gone now, unfortunately, in Port Moody.
The Gallery Bistro?
Yes, I played there, and I really liked that place. And, you know, I just feel like there's a vibe in Port Moody that, you know, it has that, it's a little bit smaller, and the connection is there, personal type of thing. I don't know, how big is the Inlet Theatre? Do you know offhand?
100 to 200, you know, that kind of size.
Yeah, it's a nice size. It's a nice size where you feel like it's personal, but you can have a decent size audience. You can get the energy in the room with that many people.
Yeah. Helen Daniels from Gallery Bistro is on the committee that runs this series and is always there. So you'll see her.
Helen is awesome. Yes, I have seen Helen a few times. I've had the privilege of having her come out to a few of my shows. Yeah, she's lovely. Yeah, that was a great spot. Yeah, but Django is you know, they are, I saw them recently, and I forget what they're doing, and Cam did his usual blistering thing on the violin, and I was like, I thought the thing was gonna, you know, erupt into flames by the time he was done. So I should have had my list of the songs that we're looking at, but I know they're gonna be good ones.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you are up to or that's on your mind that you wanted to shout out before we wrapped here?
Oh, well, I would, but except for I don't think it won't make it in time, but I'm going to the island next weekend.
That's right.
Self-producing 2 shows, one on the island and one in Salt Spring. And on Friday, I'll be with my producer again for that one. And then I'm doing a singer-songwriter show at the Barn in Surrey, where it's a singer-songwriter round. And that's a little bit new for me. And I'm working on upping my level as a songwriter, because that's sort of my next goal or my next phase. I really enjoy songwriting, and I want to make that more of a pursuit. So I had a couple co-writes on my album, and I had a lot of colleagues' originals on my album, because I feel like Canada could use more of that, because we tend to sort of gravitate towards covers. And I think there's so many good composers and songwriters in Canada, and I'd like to see more of that. And I'd like to be part of, like, that's what was great about yesterday, being a part of that. The Rodney DeCrew and Tim Redman, incredible songwriters. So
yeah. Thank you for chatting with me about different things that you've been up to over the last months and even years, you know, with the album.
I really appreciate what you do. You're another one of these people that's taking time out of their busy schedule to help others in the music industry, and creating your blog is very consistent and very successful. And I refer to the music listings a lot to see what's going on in town. And I think it must feel good to be, you know, to be part of, to be doing something like that. And it must be good for you for connections, you know, because it gets you to talk to people maybe you wouldn't have talked to before without the, you know, the opportunity. And I'm sure everyone's very grateful for it.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And yeah, no doubt. Yeah, endless amounts of connections. I couldn't begin to outlay them all. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Glad to hear that. Well,
Yeah.
it was definitely an honor to be asked to do this.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'll see you at the Inlet.
I will see you there. I hope you enjoy the show, and wishing you lots of success in 2026 with your own music, because I know you're also a very good musical artist, and your blog and all your endeavors.
Thank you.